Goizueta Gardens are the 33 acres that surround our campus. It's our whole campus. Anytime you're outside, you're in Goizueta Gardens.
I like to think of our gardens as an extension of the museum, as an open-air exhibit. And we have themed and curated gardens outside, and each one has a very specific mission and a piece of history that we're telling through horticulture.
One of the 9 distinct landscapes in Goizueta Gardens is our entrance gardens.
The bulk of the big garden planting is up right in front of the museum, and you can walk through a little path that cuts through a hedge, and once you peep through the hedge, you'll see an enormous tree table that was salvaged from a tree that was dying on our campus, a big white oak. So that's a great place to just walk in our entrance gardens and be welcomed there, be a part of this community.
And then we have Veterans Park all on the north side, which is also a reflection space to honor veterans of the United States.
This was a garden in honor of Olga C. de Goizueta. It's a more formal garden on one side and then a mixed border on the rest, which is perennials and shrubs. There's a water feature with water lilies and lotus and 4 Neil Reed columns that surround it that also tell a little piece of Atlanta's history of a home not far from here where those columns came from.
The Smith Farm is an actual mid-19th century Georgia farm, and we have various gardens here. We have a kitchen garden associated with the main building, an enslaved garden associated with the enslaved cabin, and also a field where we grow the crops that take more room.
From the farm, you might then head up the hill to the Swan House, where Philip Tremblay created this masterpiece of American classicism. And he was both the architect and the landscape architect, which is very unusual today. So this beautiful space is part of the Country Place era movement, and it's been preserved. And that piece of property particularly is important to us here at the History Center because that is where we began our history as a public garden.
We have Swan Woods, which is 10 acres of preserved woodland with trails. We have trees, but also lots of native perennials.
And we've added a raised or elevated boardwalk to help people get out to the wood cabin, which is nestled within Swan Woods. We also have a big opening, so we have a wildflower meadow.
And that's where our honeybees live as well.
The Sims Asian Garden is a connoisseur's garden of Asian flora. This is where we have a collection of Japanese maple and numerous other plants that are rare and unusual, and a little creek running through it. And it's a really quiet, beautiful, strolling garden to go through. And in fall, when it goes into fall color, it is spectacular. When people think rhododendron, they usually think of those large evergreen leaf, big purple blooms, but rhododendron is also the genus for azalea, and that's really our strength in that garden is our azalea collection. The Mary Howard Gilbert Memorial Quarry Garden is a 25 to 30 foot deep abandoned rock quarry. This bowl of a garden, which is filled with Georgia's native plants from the mountains to the coast. It's all a native plant collection, which we think is probably the most diverse in the state. Some of the fun here is just exploring. You don't have to have an agenda. You can just walk through and go where the trails lead and pick your own path.